Deadliest plane crash in aviation history. Imagine two of the world's biggest passenger planes colliding on the ground, not in the air, but on a foggy runway. The result? The deadliest accident in aviation history, claiming 583 lives, most of them instantly. This isn't fiction. This really happened, and the world would never be the same after it. This is the terrifying story of Tenerife Airport disaster 1977. The date was March 27, 1977. Two Boeing 747 jumbo jets, one operated by KLM, the other by Pan Am, were both scheduled to land at Las Palmas Airport in the Canary Islands. But that day, a terrorist bombing at the Las Palmas terminal forced all inbound flights to divert to a smaller airport, Los Rodeos Airport in Tenerife. This airport wasn't built to handle so many massive jets. The narrow taxiways were jammed. There was no ground radar, and the weather turned foggy fast. As tension rose, both planes sat idle on the small runway, with dozens of other aircraft parked in makeshift areas. It was a disaster waiting to happen. The conditions. Los Rodeos had just one runway used for both takeoffs and landings. Visibility dropped to barely 300 meters because of dense fog. There were no modern systems like surface movement radar to guide planes on the ground. Everything depended on verbal communication between pilots and air traffic control, and that would soon become a deadly flaw. The pilots and their plans. The KLM flight, led by Captain Jacob Veldhuizen van Zanten, was eager to leave. He was a respected pilot and even featured in KLM advertisements. But delays had pushed his legal flying hours to the limit. The Pan Am flight, on the other hand, had a crew that was calm, experienced, and cautious. They were still taxiing behind the KLM jet on the same runway, in thick fog, waiting for further instructions. But confusion and miscommunication would turn this situation into a horror. The miscommunication. Here's where it gets chilling. KLM's captain thought he had clearance to take off, but ATC never officially gave it. The controller had said, "Okay, stand by for takeoff, I will call you." But KLM's captain misunderstood. He started rolling down the runway, without knowing that the Pan Am plane was still taxiing ahead. The Pan Am crew radioed, "We're still on the runway." But the messages were overlapping on the radio, creating radio interference. Neither side heard the full conversation. Seconds ticked down, too fast to stop. The impact. Suddenly, through the thick fog, Pan Am's pilots saw the lights of KLM's plane charging toward them, full throttle. They screamed, "Get off! Get off!" They tried to turn the aircraft sharply to the left. But it was too late. KLM's nose lifted into the air, but its fuselage slammed into the top of Pan Am's plane, tearing it apart and bursting into flames. The KLM plane flew briefly, then exploded on impact with the ground. The aftermath. All 248 people on the KLM flight died. 335 of the 396 people on the Pan Am flight also died, many trapped in the burning wreckage. Only 61 survived, mostly from the front section of Pan Am. In total, 583 lives were lost. It was the deadliest aviation disaster in history, and remains so to this day. The lessons learned. After Tenerife, the aviation world changed forever. Standardized phraseology in cockpit communication was enforced. The concept of crew resource management (CRM) was introduced, encouraging co-pilots to question captains if necessary. Ground radar systems were installed at major airports. Pilots were trained to be clearer, more direct, and double-check all instructions. One tragic accident saved thousands of future lives. The Tenerife disaster is a haunting reminder of how a small misunderstanding, poor visibility, and pressure can lead to catastrophe.